Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we would make a heart-shaped easel card, and I'll show you how to really easily make this. And you can use any shapes for this, so once you learn the technique you can apply it to many other shapes that you might have. Then we're going to work on some brayering, and I'll give you some easy and quick tips and tricks for brayering. So let's go ahead and get started. So the image that we're going to be using today is from the Art Impression Lovebird set, and that's that cute little couple on the park bench. And later on, we're also going to be using that happy anniversary sentiment as well. So for paper, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. I've gone ahead and placed it in my mini MISTI, and I'm using the Hero Arts Nesting Hearts Infinity dies to die cut this, and I'm using that largest one. But first, I just want to stamp my image, and I wanted to see about how much of that was going to show on my card. So what I'm going to do is just line that up at the bottom of that heart. I can go ahead and stamp this now. So for ink, I'm using my Versafine Onyx black ink. This is a permanent black ink. I'm going to go ahead and ink that up. So now let's do some coloring. But first, I just want to determine about how much of this I need to color. And it turns out I do need to color most of it, but I'm just making a little pencil mark there. And I don't need to color some of those areas down at the bottom there. So for colors, I'm starting with the gray brown and the light gray. And then I also have my blender pen out there to do my blending. So I'm starting with that lighter color gray, and then I'll just add some shadows here with that gray brown. And again, this little image is just so cute. And the other image in that set is that couple dancing. And there's plenty of cute little sentiments that go with this set as well. So it's really a fun little set, and it does make a great anniversary card. And I thought by creating a heart-shaped easel card out of it, just makes it more of a little bit of a keepsake, something fun that somebody can put out on their table. Just a fun little change of pace from your standard card. So I did speed up the coloring quite a bit here. I just wanted to show you the colors that I used, and all of those colors will be listed up in the left-hand corner as we're going along. And again, I'm just using my blender pen to do my blending. And then here you just see me removing some color. So I'm just grabbing that color and then scribbling it onto my scrap paper. And then once that blender pen goes clear, I can start blending again, or I can grab some more color and scribble it onto my scrap paper. So it's very forgiving, and you can also use a water brush here as well. So whatever you're most comfortable using. But I usually say that I find that blender pen easier to use. I just have a little bit more control. So I switched over to that flesh color and did his head and his neck there. And now I've switched to the light blue and the turquoise green, and I'm going to do her jacket. Now, what's really nice with the Art Impressions images or the stamp sets, you get an indexing on the front of the packaging. So it gives you some ideas of the different ways you can color these, but it also gives you some really great ideas for shadowing these. So you can always refer to that. You can put it on your desk next to what you're coloring and just follow along. So that is another really easy way to do this as well. If you don't feel real comfortable, just use that. You can copy the colors on the packaging exactly, and then you know for sure that you'll get some really good results. So just play around. And I love using my Zig markers because, again, I do find that they're very forgiving. They're very easy to blend, and it's very easy to remove color if you get too much. Now for his hat, I'm going to the black. With the black, you do want to use it very sparingly. A little bit of the black goes a long way. So just a little touch of it. You can always come back in and add more if you need to here. And you see me doing that here. So just a couple little dots of that black, and then I'm pulling it up towards the top of his hat there. Now with the mid brown and beige, I'm going to do his pants. So I thought I'd make like a khaki, sort of a khaki pair of pants here for him. And I'm just sort of keeping my shadows on the inside of the pant legs and then pulling out towards the edges a little bit here. Now I'm going back to that light gray to do her hair. And then back to that black to do a little bit of color on the collar. And I'm using the black again on her boots. And now I've switched to the deep violet, and I'll do every other section of the umbrella. And I'm placing that deep violet up towards the top, and then I'll just pull it down just to keep the edges of the umbrella the lightest. And I'm just flipping that over. I don't want to put my hand in the area that I've already colored in. So I'm just trying to keep my hands off of that colored image just so I don't smudge it by accident. And now again, I'm coming in with that black. And again, just a little tiny bit at the top here and pulling it down. And you can always add more here. So just a little bit of the black. You can see how far I can stretch that color. And there I'm just removing some color. I want to create a little bit of a highlight there, so I'm just removing some of the excess. Now I'll use that deep violet again for her hat, and I'm putting the color on each side, and then I'll kind of pull in towards the center here. And then back to the light gray for the little bench. And I'll add some shadows here with the black again. And now again, I'll pull in from each side and just leave that middle part of the bench the lightest. And then later on, we'll come in with a white gel pen and we can add some extra highlights. So don't worry too much if you didn't get a perfect blending. We can add some highlights here and there with that gel pen. So I'm just adding a few shadows here. So now I'm going to use my detail scissors and I'll cut around this, and I'm going to leave a little white border here. I'm not going to worry about the bottom area too much for now. We'll cut away any excess once we do our die cutting there. So I'm going to leave that for now. Now I'll grab my Jelly Roll white gel pen and I'll just add some little highlights and some polka dots here and there. Now I will list and link all the products I'm using today down below and also on my blog. So here I'm just adding a few highlights. So now going back to that die, let's go ahead and die cut out the bottom of this, and then we can finish our cutting. So I'm lining it back up with that pencil line that I created earlier, and I'm running that through the die cutting machine. Now I'm also going to die cut 2 more hearts, that same size, one out of the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and then I'll die cut a second one out of some glossy white cardstock. This is the Ranger Alcohol Ink Glossy Cardstock. And we're going to be doing some brayering on this glossy cardstock. So let's go ahead and run that through. Now we have got the glossy one and then the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm going to grab this glossy heart for now. And I'm going to do some stamping on this, and I'm using the Bible Journaling set number 2, and we're going to use those little tiny dots there. Now these dots are meant to be used in that wreath to create a beautiful floral arrangement, but we're going to be using it for the water in our background, for the rain. So I'm using my watercolor travel box here from Art Impressions, and I'm just going to grab that medium-sized acrylic block. You do get 3 blocks in that set, and you get a little watercolor palette as well. So I've got my Watermark Embossing Ink Pad here, and I'm going to go ahead and just stamp these. Again, I want to create the look of rain. So I'm stamping those, and then I'll go ahead and add some clear embossing powder to these. Now you could stamp the entire panel. I just was having a hard time seeing where I had already stamped. So I'm going to add that embossing powder just so I can see where those images are. And now I can continue stamping that. But first, let me go ahead and heat set this. And so this is just going to be clear embossing powder with the clear ink. And then we're going to be brayering over the top of this. So you can see there that we have those little tiny drops, those little tiny droplets that we're going to be using for the rain. So I'm going to finish filling in this entire panel. And I'm just filling it in. I can kind of see where that embossing powder is. I'll add a little bit more powder here and then I'll heat set this all at one time. So you can either just do a few and then use your heat tool, or if you can see where you've already stamped, you can go ahead and do the whole panel and then add your embossing powder, whichever way you find easiest for you. So I've gone ahead and heat set that, and you can see that beautiful texture that we get. Now I'm going to just tape this down to my glass medium mat just so that it won't move around while we do some brayering. So I've got my Hero Arts Ombre ink pad in the Mermaid, and this is just beautiful. It's some blues and purples. So you can see that you get the 3 different colors, and I've got my Speedball soft rubber brayer, and I'm going to just pick up some ink. Now I want to just figure out which color is on which side. It's kind of hard to tell when you're looking at the ink pad. So I'm going to flip that pad around so that it goes from blue up to purple. So I want to ink up my brayer, and the best way to do this is to brayer in one direction. So you're going to pick up the ink, and then you want to shift that roller just a little bit. That will help you avoid getting those lines that appear across the brayer. So here you're just going to keep picking up that ink, shifting that brayer a little bit, and then you're going to go from up and down a little bit as well, just to blend those colors together just a little bit. Now you want to move in one direction across your cardstock as well. So I'm going to start off the edge and roll straight across. And because of this glossy cardstock, I'm going to be able to push that ink around a little bit. So I'm lifting and pushing each time. I'm not going back and forth. I know it kind of looks like I'm doing that, but I'm lifting and going from right to left and lifting and right to left again. So now I'm just going to add some more color. I want a nice saturation of color here. And the more ink you have, the easier it is to blend these colors together. So again, I'm going to go back and pick up some ink, and you do want to shift that brayer a little bit, maybe about a quarter of a turn each time. And again, that removes any lines that you might get. And you don't want to roll back and forth. That will create lines as well. Now I want to saturate the paper pretty well because again, that will keep the ink floating up on top of the paper, and I can kind of push that around. So the more ink I have, the more I'm able to move that ink across the cardstock. Now I want to do the bottom section, so I'm going to grab a little bit of that purpley color and some of that aqua color as well. So I'll just put my brayer just in those 2 little sections there. And then I'm going to go the opposite direction. So I'm going to go from left to right. And again, I'm just lifting the brayer each time and filling that in. So now I'm just doing a final swipe there across that cardstock. And then to clean off your brayer, you can use your stamp cleaner. You can use a little bit of water here. Just wipe it down really well. And then to store your brayer, lay it on the back side here. That way you won't get any flat spots on that rubber if it sits for a long time in a drawer or something. And you can see here that you can pop this brayer right out of this mechanism and take it to your sink and wash it. So you have a lot of options here. But you do want to take care of your brayer and make sure you store it well so that it will be good to go when you're ready to use it. Here I'm just giving a quick heat set. Now, when I heat set that, some of that clear embossed area, those little dots, will pick up some of that color, and I did want that to happen. So that color will kind of get embedded down into that clear embossing powder. And that's just going to add to these little raindrops. It's just going to add a little bit more texture to those raindrops. Now here, I'm just going to cut around the feet here because now I can see which areas I need to keep. So I'm just going to cut that away. And that'll sit right down at the bottom of this heart panel. So let's go ahead and glue these two together. So this is the one that I die cut out of the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock earlier. I'm going to go ahead and glue these two pieces. And so if you have any warping in that brayered panel, this will make sure it lays nice and flat. Now I'm going back to that Ombre ink pad, and I'm going to use my sponge applicator tool and go all the way around the edges and just take away that white border. So I can go ahead and glue the little couple down here at the bottom. I'm using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. This is a nice strong adhesive. So I'll set that aside to dry. Once that's dry, I'm going to use the dull blue Zig pen, and I'm going to just fill in those little white areas here. And I'll just fill it in with that blue color just to complete that sky background. And I've just scribbled that color right onto my glass media mat, and I'm picking it up with the blender pen and just filling that in. So now going to my Lawn Fawn Mermaid cardstock. This is a 100-pound cardstock. We're going to create the card base. So this measures 5 inches by 8.5 inches, and I'm scoring it at 4 1/4. I just need enough room to create the heart shape that we're going to be using. So I'm going to just press that fold out with my bone folder. And now I've got that heart die. So what I want to do here is put the top edge of that cutting right above that fold line. So I'm going to keep the card closed. I'm just going to slide that up just a little bit. I'm going to show you this way as well. So I hope you can see that I'm leaving a little tiny gap right there at the top. And that'll create the hinge for our card. So I'm going to tape that in place with a little bit of purple tape. Keeping that card closed, I'm going to run it through the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And you can run that through a couple of times because you are going through that cardstock. So you want to make sure you cut all the way through. So I'll remove that purple tape, and then any little bit of stickiness that's left over from that tape, you can use your adhesive remover and just quickly remove that. So now we have that little heart-shaped card. Now I need to create the score line for the easel portion. So I'm going to score this at 2 1/4. And that's going to, again, create the easel. So I'm going to fold this in towards the center. I'll press that out with the bone folder. And there you can see, that's the little easel portion that we need for the card. So now I need adhesive down at the bottom from that score line down towards the bottom here. So I'm going to fill that whole area in. And I am going to press that glue out with my fingers a little bit just to make sure it's right up to that score line. Now I can go ahead and position this heart in place. I'm lining it up. And I'll just press that down and let that dry. And then you'll see that that again is going to create that easel. I'm just making sure that it's pressed down really well here. So now we need something to hold that easel card up. So we need to create a little sentiment here. I'm going back to the Infinity Hearts dies, and I'm going to grab this one here. Now I'm going to take that sentiment, as I mentioned earlier, that one that says Happy Anniversary, but there are a lot of other cute sentiments here that you could use as well. So now I want to go back to this Ombre ink pad, and I want to stamp this with those multiple colors. So I'm just turning it on its side, and I'm moving it up and down just a little bit so I get a nice blending of colors there. And then I can go ahead and stamp that again. You do want to make sure the ink pad is in the same direction that you used the first time. So now I have that purple, those purple, blues, and aqua colors all together here. So now I can run this through my die cutting machine, and I've stamped this on some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And now I can go ahead and ink up the edges. So I'm going to use my foam applicator, but I'm going to pick up color from all the different areas of the ink pad. So I'm going to pick up that aqua, then a little bit of the blue, and then a little bit of that purpley color, so that the edging around this heart has all three colors. That'll just tie everything together here. So now I need to pop this up on the inside of the card because this is what's going to hold that card upright. So I'm using a double layer of foam adhesive. So I've got 2 layers thick here. And that should be more than enough to hold that little easel up. I'm just chimming away any excess here of that foam mounting tape, and I'm pressing the backing just to make it easier to remove that. And then I can go ahead and center this on my card. So now you can see that easel will fit right into that little notch at the top of the heart there. So this worked out really well. So let's add a few little sparkly embellishments. And I'm going to just kind of randomly add these in the background. I think it will give that rain a little bit of sparkle, and then some of those are like little dewdrops, which I thought would be really pretty. Now I've die cut another one of those hearts out of that same Mermaid cardstock just to thicken up the base of the card a little bit more. So I'm adding that, and that'll take away that flat edge at the top as well. So it finishes off the card. You certainly don't need to do that part, but I thought it finished off the card nicely. So you can see that beautiful brayered background that we have. And this little easel I just think is so much fun, and these are so easy to do. So look at the shapes that you might have and see what you can come up with. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Also, please visit my blog at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.